You know that feeling, right? That late night idea that just hits you, and you think, this is it. This could change everything. But how do you actually take that spark and build it into a real thriving business? Well, today we're going to break down a simple blueprint for turning that vision into reality. And that right there is the million-dollar question every single entrepreneur faces. It's the huge gap between just a cool thought and a successful company. See, having the amazing idea, that's kind of the easy part. The real work is figuring out if it can actually survive and, succeed out in the wild. So in the next few minutes, we're going to build a bridge right across that gap. All right, let's jump right in. An idea, no matter how genius it sounds, is just a destination. A viable business, on the other hand, is the vehicle and the map that actually gets you there. It's really the difference between saying, I want to go to the moon, and, actually building the rocket. Vision without execution is just a dream. Think about that. That one sentence is what separates successful entrepreneurs from, daydreamers. So today, we're not talking about dreaming. We are talking about building. Let's get into the tools you need for that execution. Okay, the very first practical step you've got to take is to analyze your market. Seriously, think of this like a reconnaissance mission. Before you go charging onto the battlefield, you need to understand the terrain, know who your friends and enemies are, and find that perfect spot to make your stand.
So this whole analysis thing, it really happens in 4 key stages. First, you start broad. What's your actual goal here? Are you just working on internal strategy, or are you trying to raise money? Then you zoom right in on your customer. Who are they? Like really? Next, you scout out the competition. But all of it is leading to one critical question. Where's the gap? Where is that unmet need or that competitor's weakness that creates an opening just for you? That is your entry point.
So once you've gathered all that intel, you need a way to organize it all, right? And that's where, honestly, one of the most powerful tools in business strategy comes into play, the SWOT analysis. Think of it as your command center, where you turn all that raw data into a crystal clear picture of the battlefield.
So what is SWOT? Well, it's an acronym, and it stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats. It's a super simple but incredibly effective way to look at your business idea from 4 totally different angles, giving you that complete 360-degree view.
You see, the real magic of SWOT is how it forces you to split your thinking into 2 buckets. First, you look inward at all the internal stuff, the things you can actually control, like your team, your product, your skills. These become your strengths and weaknesses. Then you look outward at the external stuff you can't control, things like the market, the economy, your competitors. And those represent your opportunities and threats.
Now, to really make this stick, let's look at a case study from our source material, Zamel Air Conditioners, a huge player in the Saudi HVAC market. When we ask what are their unique strengths, a few things jump out immediately. Massive production facilities, really savvy marketing skills, and some powerful R&D that keeps them innovative. Okay, now for the hard part. You have to be brutally honest about your weaknesses. Where can you improve? Even a powerhouse like Zamel has them. For them, it's the rising costs of raw materials and energy. That's an internal challenge that directly hits their prices, which is a weakness they absolutely have to manage.
All right, so we've looked inward. Now let's look outside. What opportunities are out there? These are like the favorable wins you can catch in your sales. For a company like Zamel, this means looking beyond their home turf. There's huge potential to expand into foreign markets or even team up with other companies to grow way faster than they could on their own.
And finally, the last piece of the puzzle, threats. These are the storms brewing on the horizon. For Zamel, this could be new competitors popping up, customers suddenly wanting different kinds of products, or rising labor costs. These are all external risks that could seriously hurt the business if they aren't paying attention.
Okay, this is where the magic happens. A SWOT analysis isn't just a boring chart you fill out. No way. It's a machine for creating your strategy. You start mixing and matching the quadrants to build your game plan. How can you use your strengths to pounce on those opportunities? That's your attack plan. How to use those same strengths to build a shield against the threats. See? This turns a simple chart into an actual, actionable battle plan.
So once you've analyzed the market and you've built your SWOT, you move to the second big step in our blueprint, the feasibility study. This is where you get real. I mean, brutally honest about whether your idea can actually work in the real world. This is your final go or no-go decision point.
This final check really boils down to 3 tough questions. First, market demand. Forget your friends and family for a second. Is there real evidence that people will pay for this? Second, technical needs. Do you actually have the skills, the team, the tech to deliver a great product, or are you biting off more than you can chew? And third, financial reality. And this is the big one. Do you have the money to survive those tough early days? And have you mapped out a realistic path to actually making a profit? Answering no to any of these doesn't mean you failed. It means you've successfully dodged a bullet.
So there you have it. A 2-step process to take any idea from just a thought floating in your head to a strategically vetted business concept. Look, this isn't about guaranteeing success, but it is about dramatically stacking the deck in your favor. And you know, what's so cool about this whole thing is how universal it is. We use the example of the Saudi air conditioning market, right? But this blueprint, using SWOT to understand your position and then a feasibility study to check your resources, that's a framework you can apply to literally anything. A tech startup, a local coffee shop, a freelance business. It stress tests your idea against reality.
So, we've laid out the map for you. You know the path from that initial spark of an idea to a full-blown enterprise. The only thing left to do is to take that first step. So what's it going to be?